Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatyam Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Questions by King Parikshit, and it's the final text of the chapter. Please repeat. Yad Yat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyati Anupurvyena Tatsarvam Akyatum Upachakrame Yadyat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyati Anupurvyena Tatsarvam Akyatum Upachakrame Yadyat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyati Anupurvyena Tatsarvam Akyatam Upachakrame
Yadyat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyata. Is that Prichyataha? Anupurvya Tatsarvam Anupurvyena Tatsarvam Akyatum Upachakrame
Yadyat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyati Anupurvyena Tatsarvam Akyatum Upachakrame
Yadyat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyati Anupurvyena Tatsarvam Akyatum Upachakrame
Yadyat Parikshit Rishabha Pandunam Anuprichyati Anupurvyena sarvam
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Agyatam upachakrame
Agyatum upachakrame
Yagyat parikshit risabha
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Mandunam anuprachati
Mandunam anuprachati
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Agyatam upachakrame
Agyatum upachakrame
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Mandunam anuprachati
Mandunam anuprachati
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Agyatum upachakrame
Agyatum upachakrame
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Mandunam anuprachati
Mandunam anuprachati
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Agyatum upachakrame
Agyatum upachakrame
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Yagyat parikshit rishabha
Pandunam anuprachati
Mandunam anuprachati
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Anupurvena tatsarvam
Upachakre
Agyatam upachakrame. Hare.
Anyone else? Okay, word for word. Let's see. Was Ann here?
Yeah.
Where's she?
Over here.
Okay, that's you there. When you see that, all the devotees know that here, and you may have heard it too, but when you see that R with the dot under it, they pronounce it just like R-I. So it makes it a lot easier to say than trying to pronounce a consonant, 3 consonants in a row, actually. So then it would be like this anuprichati, it would be like A-N-U-P, R with the dot under it, but you would pronounce that R with the dot under it, R-I. So then that's where you get the prichati from, because you're doing that R with the dot under it, just like an R-I. Okay. Translation. He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Parikshit had inquired from him. Maharaj, Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandus, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person. Okay, please repeat. He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Parikshit had inquired from him. Maharaj Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandus. And thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person. Srila Prabhupada's Divine Purport. Maharaj Parikshit asked many questions, some of them very curiously, to know things as they are, but it is not necessary for the Master to answer them in the order of the disciples' inquiries, one after the other. But Sukadeva Goswami, experienced teacher that he was, answered all the questions in a systematic way as they were received from the chain of disciplic succession. And he answered all of them without exception. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the second canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Questions by King Parikshit. I'll read that again since it's so short. Maharaj Parikshit asked many questions, some of them very curiously, just to know things as they are. But it is not necessary for the master to answer them in the order of the disciples' inquiries, one after the other. But Sukadeva Goswami, experienced teacher that he was, answered all the questions in a systematic way as they were received from the chain of disciplic succession. And he answered all of them without exception. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We offer our humble and respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes, although they were shut by the dense darkness of ignorance. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give us shelter under his lotus feet? Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we've come to the end of another chapter of the glorious Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj has asked so many questions, and the great spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, has remembered or memorized all of them without any effort on his part. This is his great qualification as a spiritual master. And he answered them all according to the line of disciplic succession, just as he had heard from his great father, Vyasadeva. And he could respond according to the line of disciplic succession. So he'll answer all these questions as Brahmaji heard from Krishna himself. So that comes in line of disciplic succession. The Lord is the master of all, the master of all knowledge. So the Lord originally answered the questions of Brahma. So similarly, when Sukadeva Goswami replies to the questions of Parikshit Maharaj, he's going to answer according to the answers that Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, gave to his student, the great four-headed Brahma. Now, unfortunately, I can't even remember the first question he asked, or any of them in the middle. Practically, I don't remember any from the end. So that's Kali Yuga. It is just as Sukadeva Goswami will also describe, in this Kali Yuga we all become very short of memory. Therefore, it's really important that things are repeated. And by Krishna's mercy, he comes in our day and time in this awful age of quarrel and hypocrisy, so much ill luck and misfortune, disease rampant everywhere. And he gives us simply a mantra. One hymn. There's 18,000 of these hymns in Srimad Bhagavatam, so we're not only blessed with that, because after all, Mahaprabhu was the greatest preacher of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He set the example of loving the Bhagavatam. Day and night, it made him practically mad. He was practically mad in transcendental ecstasy. Worldly people, they couldn't understand it all. He really seemed to be mad. But he was just so absorbed in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness from hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. But for us fallen souls in this day and age, he gave us just a mantra, just one mantra that would that would be a panacea, a great cure for all that infects us. It's like this world is so full of disease, and it's a great miracle if somebody is suffering from some very traumatic and deadly, painful disease, and all of a sudden, you become cured. And sometimes a miracle like that happens, by the will of providence, but generally speaking, they're just taking somebody off to the morgue, very quickly. But this mantra that the Lord's blessing everybody with, it's a great panacea. We may not be able to figure out what to do about this, what to do about that. But if we just chant Hare Krishna mantra, everything will be resolved. Everything will become perfect. And the atheists, they can never understand. They'll just laugh because they have no access, to Krishna consciousness. They'll never, ever be able to feel the ecstasy of love of God because they are simply absorbed in asuric bhava, the ecstasy of demons. They just want to enjoy this world independently of Krishna. Or they want the kingdom of God, as Prabhupada would say, without God. So, that's the unfortunate condition of the world. Everyone, just like Parikshit Maharaj, would be bitten by the snake bird. Similarly, all of our brothers and sisters, out of the 8 billion people, 7 billion and 99 million 999,000, 99.9% of them are all bitten by this snake of sense enjoyment, where we just want to enjoy this world. We never, ever, nor do we even care about the real purpose of it. That is just swept away because we're interested in enjoying our life in terms of sense gratification. No time for Krishna. No faith in Krishna. Could care less about Krishna. It's all about, my enjoyment in life. This is the sad, sad condition. And they don't want to hear anything else. They're ready to undergo the obstacle course of repeated birth and death. They're ready to suffer misfortune and ill luck. They're ready to grow old and die anytime. I'm not going to give up my chance to enjoy this wonderful body of blood and pus, stool and urine, bones and skin. That, as Prabhupada would say, they're all suffering from skin disease. They think it all looks very beautiful because of the skin. This is their sad, sad situation. When the vivid reality is that we have a chance to go back home to Godhead and put an end to this suffering. None of them want to do it. Why? There's something called the golden shackles of Maya. As soon as they reach puberty, it's all over. That's why. And before then, it's just other types of enjoyment. I'm going to be this hero, that hero. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this big house, that big house. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. But especially when they reach puberty, then it's all out the window. And after that, they God knows what happens in life. People's lives are so tormented and messed up in this day and age. Even the big, popular people blessed with some good karma, they have lurking behind them this ill karma that just drags them down right in front of the whole public. Humiliates them, practically crucifies them. And they'll just come crawling back to try to get one more stab at it, chasing this illusory, Prabhupada would call it a phantasmagoria, and he would compare it to a mirage, not only like the mirage in a desert, he would do that too, but he would compare it to a mirage in a swamp. It's like, in a swamp you see some dry land and you struggle through the cold, damp, muddy water to reach it. And it's not there. It's just not there. Or you see this glow of light, and it's just not there. It's just gas that appears to be light, and it's gone when you get there. So it's like that with this sense enjoyment, Just ask any crackhead. They'll tell you, I almost had it. I was enjoying it. And then I don't know what happened, look at me. Me and Guru Karuna, we went Whole Food Company to meet this old guy I used to preach to years ago in New Orleans. He would just never accept Krishna. But somehow ever he's always stuck with whatever little bit he had of Krishna consciousness while trying to enjoy his life. He just bored us to death with some conspiracy theory. I can't remember. I was just trying to get away, but at the same time I couldn't help but be polite. And I had to, just listen to him tell us about how they were killing us all, The government's killing us all. Well, they've been doing that since Jesus' time, Anyway, he must have been this big around. I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't help staring at his waist. He had these pair of pants on that he had like a Dvibuja rope, because Dvibuja always wears these belts made out of cloth, and he just ties it, So he had like that on, and he just tied the thing, and his waist must have been that big around. I couldn't help but thinking, what are you taking? I mean, what kind of drugs are you on? And then I met somebody yesterday. I've been thinking about this guy. Every now and then he would pop into my mind. This Vietnamese guy. Maharani asked me to start at the Vietnamese market. No, I shouldn't have said that. Everybody's going to think I got better looking for him because the corona may come out, That's why we wear them. So, because I've been to some places that are questionable. But, we were very safe. Anyway, I went to this Vietnamese market. And there he was, that same guy who came up begging from me a couple of years ago. And he came up like with folded hands, just begging for something. And somehow other,
You had the cheesecake.
I wanted to give him something, but this was 2 years ago. But I didn't. I knew he just wanted to buy some wine or some drugs or something. But it just haunted me afterwards that, he so humbly just to get a few pennies or nickels, quarters, was just begging me, and yet, I sent him away without giving him some petty change that's practically worthless. I may have told him Hare Krishna or something like that, which was for his ultimate good, but still, Anyway, there he was. He popped up yesterday. Teeth all yellow. Still, they were in his mouth though. Black hair, couldn't have been but maybe 35. All strung out, hands folded, pranam, begging for something. There was that cheesecake Maharaj was talking about, and I offered it to him. And the guy told me, I don't eat. And I said, I believe it. I believe you don't eat, because you can't stop putting stuff in your veins. That keeps you from even eating. That's made you like this. So I gave him a little something, and he did this whole dance of being so grateful, just. But I thought, well, at least he won't haunt me no more. I gave him, his material sense gratification. So that's the condition of the world. But Lord Chaitanya, and he did say Hare Krishna. I said Hare Krishna, and somehow he was fortunate enough that he could repeat it. He could pronounce those 4 simple syllables. Hare, which most people can do, although a lot of them will say Hari. That's great. It's fine. But somehow he also got out the Krishna. Sometimes people will come out all kinds of ways. For people who have forgotten it since time immemorial, they've been in this material world, there's deer and mosquitoes and birds. Somehow they've gotten this human form. It will come out the most funny ways, those 2 simple syllables. But he said Krishna, Hare Krishna. So that I should get out and dance with him. Maybe that would have provoked him to keep doing it. It would have been embedded in his mind, something that he wouldn't have been able to forget, perhaps. Even Radhanath Maharaj remembers when Shamasundra was going from someplace and just gave him some yogurt prasadam right in the palm of his hand, and he licked it up, and that was the very first prasadam he ever had. And then he used to be some guy called Monk, and now he's Radha Swami. So you never know what's going to happen. I remember on our New Orleans Mardi Gras Rapa cart, I saw Mother Shripati giving a raisin prasadam to this guy off the cart, and I was thinking, that guy is just going to throw it away. But no, he didn't. And I thought, wow, what a glorious act, And so yesterday at the funeral, I made Bijay buy a case of Bhagavad Gita's at retail price. And I told him, you got to give these away. They won't respect it. They're just going to throw it in the trash. I said, no, they will respect it. You just tell them it's your Bible and that they have to put it on the shelf. This is a time when they have to give respect. They're trained like that in their profession. Of course, the funeral people and all of them, it's their profession. They have to be respectful. You're their customer. They will do it, generally speaking. And those other people, they're all coming. They have to be respectful. This is your time. He bought it, but unfortunately he forgot to bring it to the crematorium. They were nice people. They would have really scooped it up. But he did give it away at the shred ceremony. They wasn't as respectful because really they come because he pays them. They're caregivers and they come because he pays them. Otherwise, they couldn't care so much. So that's Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Not everybody gets to relish in the Bhagavatam. Most people, if they're religious at all, they get to one of these other types of religious books that, gives a lot of sub-religious principles. How to be a little bit pious, how to be good, how not to cheat and steal from your fellow human being. How to be obedient to God, to really love Him, by first of all being obedient. But Srimad Bhagavatam, pastimes of the Lord, most of these books, the Lord's only in a wrathful form, trying to correct the people from being so bad, so disobedient. You rascal, you did it again. You made a wrath, change you. Hardly anybody gets the pleasure of. They can't, how can they understand? Nobody can understand. The paramour love affairs of Krishna, this is the most horrible thing in the material world. Just look at the the murders in the world, the killings, most of them are simply domestic affairs where somebody cheated on the other one. Infidelity and everything's gone out the window. I mean, what the last suicide, not suicide, that happens too, but the last, one of the few serial killings in Canada. Why? Because the guy was bent out of shape over his girlfriend. Just blew her away, and 12 other people went so insane. How can they understand Radha and Krishna? Only Srila Prabhupada could possibly make this as presentable as possible. And even then, he warned us not to try to present poets that Lord Chaitanya Prabhu would listen to in ecstasy, because these people cannot understand. What will they understand? It will seem so mundane that they'll be just excited for mundane sense enjoyment, because that's all they know. That's all most of us know. So these are very sacred, spiritual affairs that go on in the spiritual world. God is not, there's a wrathful God that only enjoys prosecuting people. He's the supreme sense enjoyer. He Risi Kach, the master of all the senses. And his enjoyment is unlimited. But we can't imitate it. If we want to go there, then you can't be lusty. As Vedanta Krit's class was telling us either last Sunday or the Sunday before, there's lust that's has huge force within our mind, intelligence and senses, and completely controlling us, just like the famous picture of the horses running crazy on the chariot, and you got this poor driver that looks like he's haunted, trying to control the reins, and the horses are compared to the crazy senses, just chasing after drugs and women. I mean, it's just as, the worst addiction is pornography. They're so insane in the world. If it wasn't for Prabhupada, we'd all be haunted chasing after this sense enjoyment. I had to stay at this motel. This hotel, fancy hotel. The governor of Louisiana would do all of his balls and very intimate get-togethers at that hotel, because the bottom floor is so exquisite. And right across the street is this huge church. So back in the 80s, there was this powerful Christian preacher. That hotel used to be the dormitory for his college. Big college broadcasting station. As he just preached that message of salvation to everyone. The guy that we were doing the funeral for, somehow ever his dad came in contact with him during a meeting. And this guy's name is Jimmy Swaggart. Maybe some people have heard of him. So Jimmy Swaggart says, "If you're not a Christian, then you're going to hell." So Dr. Mohanty stands up and says, "Well, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Hindu, and I'm not going to hell." And so there ensued some debate. Same guy. Right after that, he was found with a prostitute. His ministry almost ruined. But after all, God is forgiving. That wrathful God is forgiving, if you're bathed in the blood of the Savior. So he bathed in the blood again and, apologized to the congregation and asked for forgiveness, and they forgave. And for another year, he powerfully preached from the pulpit until he was caught again in California. Whole ministry ruined. Big scandal. He had to sell the dormitory to Renaissance hotels, became a big hotel. He had to sell the college, I forget who owns the college, some big old thing owns this big. I mean, it wasn't like, a big state university that may be on quite a few hundred acres. But I mean, it was a big building that, easily you could educate hundreds of students. Sold that to somebody else, just to pay for all the things that just completely almost ruined. He had to go into retirement. His son actually took over the ministry. So, I forget the point of bringing that up exactly, but it just shows how this sense enjoyment just haunts even the most prominent of people, pulls them down. Politicians, ministers, and our very own ISKCON. What has illicit sex done for us? The very basic thing that Srila Prabhupada asks us to renounce. What has that done for us? Well, just practically ruined somebody's ministry completely.
Actually, after he got caught, he actually tried to explain to his congregation that it was almost as if he had read one of Prabhupada's books, and he said that this was like, he didn't use the word lila, but he basically described that sometimes you cannot understand the activities of an advanced soul, and that because they're so advanced, they're, he didn't use the word Maya, but Maya is showing you how bad it is. So I am showing you how bad this world is, but I'm not really bad. This was his, convoluted, ridiculous explanation for the whole thing.
It's amazing what we can rationalize. So, Lord Chaitanya gave us the Mahamantra. He gave us Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada gave us Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, none of us here would be able to read it because, they only read it in Sanskrit. We wouldn't even be able to read it if Srila Prabhupada didn't put it in Romanized letters. Who would have the memory to remember what they were chanting when you don't even know what the syllables mean? So, by Prabhupada's grace, the time and the effort, the previous acharyas didn't render that into English. At most, Bengali or Hindi. But it was in Sanskrit. So Srila Prabhupada would make the effort to take the Sanskrit verse and put it into Roman letters. That in itself is an academic feat. No one had done it before him. Scholars may be able to look at it now and say, well, that's not so hard to do. But for the most part, he was practically, the first one who had a lot of success doing that. Then to give the word-for-word meanings and his translation, and then to elaborate upon the purport, to give a purport to teach us. Fantastic feat. So we have to take this arsenal of the Mahamantra and Srimad Bhagavatam and the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the other books, the Nectar of Devotion, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Sopanishad. These arsenals of weapons will help us to conquer the enemy. And it's not the bad guy over here or the woman trying to eke out a living by selling her body over there. But it's the lust and the greed and the anger that's in our very own heart. Somehow, however, we have to cure ourselves. What do they say? Doctor, cure yourself. He's curing everybody, but is he cured? Doctor, cure yourself. We have to cure ourselves. You know, if we're going to save anyone else, we have to, first of all, save ourselves. So this is the grace of Srila Prabhupada, that he's saving us all. We're struggling along, and whatever advancement we are on the ladder of Bhakti Yoga, and trying to serve Guru and Guranga. Prabhupada is so kind that he doesn't stop us from trying to help others, even though we may not even be cured. But instead, he gives us the pleasure of giving to other people. I mean, amazing. We have no qualification. We can't even hang a diploma on the wall, practically speaking. He gives us initiation. Follow the 4 regulative principles. So in the beginning, if you could do that for 6 months, then wow, come sit down and get initiated. I mean, hardly any test at all. And then he lets us go out and give it to others. I mean, amazing, go out and do what, in most religions, they got to go to college and earn degrees to do and be trained up. I mean, we ourselves do that too because it's good to be trained. But Srila Prabhupada was so potent that he would send us out to preach, to teach, to distribute his books. Sometimes he would have to teach us by deflating our ego and saying, what are you going to teach them? It's better to give them a book. What is your 2 minutes of speech, 3 minutes or 10 minutes going to do for them? What are they going to remember? Sell them a book. So, anyhow, that's my gig for the day. Anything else before we knock off? There was socially distancing. There was only like 10 people at the funeral and 10 people at the shred ceremony. So that's what they're saying. If you're going to go to one, they're allowing these things to go on now, but they're keeping them down. Still want to socially distance. Even people getting married. There's people getting married over the internet. They try to do it with a Zoom thing. That wasn't just small. They're keeping everything small so that the, hopefully, the evil virus won't spread rapidly. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.